Ninth International Seminar of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries kicked off in Vienna, Austria on Wednesday. The head of the Foundation of Martyrs and Veterans Affairs of Iran, Zahid Ohadi, reported that the Israeli attacks against his people during the 12-day conflict with Israel left a total of 1,060 people dead. Guatemalan authorities report 2 deaths and material damages after 2 earthquakes of magnitude 5.2 and 5.7 in an epicenter in the south of the country. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We'll be with the news. Stay with us. Let's go live to Vienna, Austria, where the first high-level roundtable of the 9th OPEC International Seminar is underway. Our colleague Jorge Estoso is right there on the venue, ready to share the latest details. Welcome, Jorge.
Thank you very much. This afternoon, in the second plenary session here at the 9th seminar of OPEC here, the International in Vienna, one of the participants of a panel about investments for the future was the Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez. She was very clear in her position. She was mentioning, for example, that the world, her words, the world is at war. And she said, because there were many panelists, they said 3 out of the countries that are in this panel. She mentioned Libya, she mentions Iran and Venezuela. She said, we are under the target. Mentioned a couple of figures very important. They say 26% of the production of the world is under sanctions, and 46% of the world reserves of oil are under what is called in Spanish medidas unilaterales, means unilateral sanctions. And she said most definitely that has been the case of Venezuela, that throughout that unilateral sanctions, as she mentioned, 1,041 unilateral sanctions since the year 15, 16, and 17, she mentioned, is not letting Venezuela could be able to produce as much oil as they could. She was very optimistic anyway that by the year 2027, it says the first molecule of gas will be exported from Venezuela. And at the end of her presentation, she concludes about investment. And her words, she said, the world geopolitics is key, fundamental, say, to grant the production of oil. Therefore, trying to conclude that we cannot assume that you can grant the production of oil, even though, as one of the panelists and one of the members, founder of the OPEC, teleSUR, is reporting precisely on, as one of the sponsors of this event, that OPEC is founded by 5 members, one of them is Venezuela. How come a country under what a number that she mentioned was 1,041 unilateral sanctions can preview, can present, can guarantee production when in reality one of these countries she mentioned is at war? We get back to you now.
Thank you, Jorge, for the information coming from Vienna. We're going to stay on top of what is happening in this 9th International Seminar of OPEC. For now, let's continue with our news. In Malaysia, the foreign ministers of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations held Wednesday their plenary meeting in Kuala Lumpur, where they addressed issues of the economy. During the session of the heads of Asian diplomacy, they addressed the high tariffs imposed by Donald Trump, which largely affect the region and the economies of Indonesia and Thailand in particular. In this regard, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim stated that there is an urgent need to increase trade among Asian members in order to combat the protectionism that threatens the region's export economy. Ibrahim also noted that Asia must chart its own course and rejected a divided world where external influence makes decisions about the region. And in this context, the Foreign Minister of Malaysia, Mohamad Hassan, made a call to achieve peace in Myanmar, arguing that the conflict threatens the region's security.
Closer to home, the crisis in Myanmar continues to weigh heavily on our conscience. Despite ASEAN's sustained effort, we have yet to see meaningful progress on the ground. Delayed peace in Myanmar prolongs the sufferings of the people and threatens the region's security.
We now have a short break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Israeli regime has committed new war crimes by attacking camps of displaced Palestinians since Wednesday morning. At least 17 people have been killed and dozens more have been wounded in the Gaza Strip. According to the Wafa news agency, 11 civilians were killed and several others were wounded when Israeli forces shelled a house in the Al-Shadi refugee camp, which is located west of Gaza City. Another bombing in Deir al-Balah claimed the lives of a man and his son. Additionally, 2 people were killed and several were injured in an attack on a tent sheltering displaced families in Han Yunis. Health authorities report that at least 57,000 people have been killed and more than 136,000 have been wounded in Gaza as a result of Israel's genocidal campaign launched in October 2023. Thousands of people gather in the center of Paris to form a large red human line, symbolizing their condemnation of the genocide currently being endured by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. On Tuesday, a large group of demonstrators wearing red clothing gathered at La Place de la République to symbolically recall that all red lines have been crossed in Gaza. The demonstration was organized by several humanitarian organizations and NGOs. The demonstration aimed to raise awareness about the genocide perpetrated by Israel in the Palestinian enclave. And René Pérez Oglar, known by his stage name Residente, announced the cancellation of his 2 performances in Spain. One was scheduled for Moriña Fest 2025 and the other for FIV 2025. Both events are associated with pro-Israeli investment fund KKR.
I was scheduled to perform at 2 festivals in Spain, the FIB and the Morena Festival. Both festivals are linked to a U.S. investment fund called KKR. What does this fund do? It invests in and financially supports Israeli companies involved in military technology, surveillance systems, and espionage. The fund also finances real estate projects in illegal settlements in occupied Palestinian territories. This indirectly contributes to genocide and the systematic violation of human rights against the Palestinian people.
The Secretary General of the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah, Sheikh Naim Qassem, acknowledged that Israel's war against Lebanon was due to electronic surveillance, not human infiltration. Qassem revealed details related to the security breach that affected the party by booby-trapped pagers, describing it as a heavy blow. He added that the explosives used inside the devices were of a special type that was not detected by the usual mechanisms. It was later revealed that the Israeli occupation was conducting a nearly exhaustive interception, collecting precise data for 17 years, using drones and advanced technology. And Yemeni media published exclusive images from the moment of the Magic Seas ship and its sinking in the Red Sea after the owner company violated the order issued by the Asian country. The operation occurred after the directive issued by the Yemeni Armed Forces, which prohibits the entry of ships to ports in occupied Palestine. was violated, and it involved 2 unmanned vessels, 5 ballistic and cruise missiles, and 3 drones. The attack is another of Yemen's strategies against the genocide in Gaza, with the aim of stopping the Israeli aggression and lifting the blockade imposed by the Zionist forces. This marks the first incident of its kind since the May ceasefire between the Yemenis and the US-led coalition in the region. And the head of the Foundation of Martyrs and Veterans Affairs of Iran, Zahid Ohadi, reported that the Israeli attacks against the people of the Persian nation, which took place between June 13th and the 24th, left a total of 1,060 people dead. Ohadi noted that the figure could rise further due to serious injuries and unidentified bodies. The attacks began on June 13th, when Israel launched a series of offensives against Iranian nuclear and military sites. According to the authorities of the Islamic Republic, these actions resulted in the death of key military commanders, nuclear scientists, and civilians, as well as causing a significant number of injuries. An Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and his Saudi counterpart Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan held an important meeting to discuss bilateral relations and key regional developments. During the meeting in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Araghchi emphasized Iran's commitment to strengthening relations with Saudi Arabia in all areas of mutual interest. He reiterated that Israel is the main source of instability in the region. In turn, the Saudi foreign minister said that Saudi Arabia is dedicated to preventing further escalation in the region and is prepared to provide any necessary assistance. We now have our second and final show break coming up. We invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate notification buttons to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final break, don't go away. Welcome back. Guatemalan authorities report 2 deaths and material damage after 2 earthquakes of magnitude 5.2 and 5.7 with an epicenter in the south of the country. On Tuesday, authorities reported the death of 2 men, aged 53 and 20, who were traveling in a vehicle that was crushed by a giant rock resulting from a landslide. The volunteer fire department reported that the accident occurred on a highway connecting the departments of Esquintla and Zacatepeques in the southwestern part of the country. In response, President Bernardo Arevalo ordered public schools to suspend classes on Wednesday and encourage those who can to work from home. And in the United States, at least 3 people were missing in a mountain village in southern New Mexico after monsoon rains triggered flash floodings that swept an entire house downstream. Emergency crews carried out at least 85 swiftwater rescues in the Ruidoso area, including saving people who were trapped in their homes and cars, said Daniel Silva of the New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. According to the public information officer for Ruidoso, Kerry Leden, no deaths were immediately reported, but 3 people have been taken to the hospital and were in stable condition. And Greece's iconic Acropolis has been closed temporarily amid the second major heat wave of 2025, with temperatures reaching 40 degrees Celsius in many places across the country on Tuesday. The Ministry of Culture informed that the emblematic archaeological site would remain closed to the public between 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. local time in order to protect both visitors and workers from the impact of excessive heat. In island regions and central areas of the country where thermometers have exceeded 40 degrees Celsius, mandatory breaks for those working outdoors will be maintained. The measure came into force on Monday and provided for fines of up to 2,000 euros per worker in case of non-compliance. And prosecutors in Colombia seized assets belonging to the Anglo-French oil company Perenco in Bogota The company is accused of financing a paramilitary group between 1997 and 2005. According to authorities, there is evidence suggesting that the foreign company financed paramilitary groups, particularly the now defunct United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia's Centauros bloc, for years. This alleged relationship lasted about 8 years, during which the oil company increased its presence and assets in the region. These assets, valued at over $10 million, were transferred to the Fund for the Reparation of Victims, which will use them to compensate civilians affected by paramilitary actions. And Chileans commemorate on Tuesday the 4th anniversary of the passing of Luisa Toledo, considered the mother of Chilean people. In a commemorative act held in her honor and headed by her husband and comrade Manuel Vergara, several gathered in the General Cemetery of Santiago de Chile last Sunday, where her remains lie. On March 29, 1985, during the military dictatorship, two of Toledo's sons, Rafael and Eduardo Vergara, were killed by the Carabineros in Villa Francia for their activism in the fight against Pinochet. To honor their memory, the date of their assassination is known as the Young Combatant Day, and Luisa Toledo, who never stopped seeking justice for her sons, became the maternal image of the conscious young people in Chile. And in Argentina, the government of Javier Milei continues with the dismantling of the country. 21 public agencies of different areas were dissolved, transformed, and merged. Such resolution affects sectors related to health, transportation, agro-industry, industry, and road safety. The measure states that these agencies will be reassigned to the relevant ministries, and secretariat staff will retain their positions until further notice. The elimination was justified by overarching functions and lack of tangible results, like the National Institute of Tropical Medicine. The director of the National Institute of Agricultural Technology, Ariel Pereda, questioned the decree, alleging that modernization cannot be synonymous with elimination. And in Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum demanded that the United States government do more to curb the crime of arms trafficking from the country into national territory. The head of the executive highlighted that Washington has not done enough against this phenomenon that is used by drug cartels and other criminal organizations to gain firepower. The federal president insisted that Mexico must do its part and that there must be a necessary collaboration with the United States, but she demanded that her counterpart, Donald Trump's government, do much more. The president recalled that the U.S. State Department itself, in a recent report, acknowledged that 70% of the weapons that enter Mexico illegally come from the U.S. territory. And our multimedia platform teleSUR received Tuesday in Caracas, Venezuela, the Aníbal Nazoa Award in 3 categories for its contribution to building an alternative media narrative. The awards were presented by the Movement for Necessary Journalism, and in the case of teleSUR, included the categories of Television, Reporter of the Year, and Digital Podcast. The recognitions highlight the multi-platform's 20-year trajectory at the service of the peoples of the South, as well as the work of its staff. The ceremony was attended by teleSUR's president Patricia Villegas and other high executives. The Aníbal Nazoa Award is presented every year in Venezuela and aims at honoring journalistic rigor and commitment to communication in service of the people. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines closed Vinci Mass with the Grand Mardi Gras parade through the streets of Kingstown. Carnival bands parade through the streets of the capital in their themed costumes to the rhythm of soca and metallic drums. The traditional bands show off their handmade costumes, a characteristic feature of the St. Vincent Carnival. Mardi Gras, or Carnival Tuesday, is the grand finale after weeks of events that began in May throughout the country, celebrating the local culture. At this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media: Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.